Quickly. Let's talk now with Ted Williams. He's a former homicide detective and criminal defense attorney. And while all of that experience is pertinent, so is this. Ted, you've been to that mall before. What is before those police officers as they try to find people who may not know this whole thing has ended?
Well, Harris, what they're going to do is a sweep of that mall. They now believe clearly that they have control of what they define as the crime scene. And so the sweep of the mall will make it a lot easier for the SWAT team to go through. Matter of fact, there'll probably be some announcement on the intercom systems there about the fact that it's all clear. But this has been a very interesting news conference, and I can tell you from everything I've been able to glean here that law enforcement officers are not only in control, but they now know what happened in light of the fact that throughout that mall, Harris and Greg, there are video cameras. And so I'm sure that they have looked at the videotape here. Now, if in fact it is like Molly said that they believe it may be a murder-suicide, one of the things they are trying right now is to try to determine a nexus between the shooter and the individuals there on the scene. If it's not a murder-suicide, then we know by virtue of what the chief said at the news conference that one or the other persons would have had a gun and they would have been going back and forth. So it looks as though that this may very well be a targeted kind of a scenario that unfortunately unfolded in the Columbia Mall. As you've said, I've been there many times. My daughter Sydney, my daughter Tracy lives out in that area, so I'm very familiar with it.
You know, it's a cold day, obviously. We're in the middle of winter now. A lot of people, young people, go to the malls. On a busy Saturday morning, this place would have been probably packed. You heard the police chief talking about that, so they really don't know how many people they're dealing with who would have been at the mall. But, Ted, you've been there. Tell us a little bit about the layout, if you will, of this mall and what some of the areas of concern are as they kind of look for people now. Because I know Greg had mentioned there are a couple of anchor stores like Lord & Taylor.
Yeah, well, Harris, you've got quite a few upscale stores. This is an upscale community. There's a movie theater that's in that mall area. You have Lord & Taylor's. You have a lot of upscale shops there. So what they're having to do is go through each and every one of those stores to make sure and to talk to and interview each and every person as they come out of these various stores, because they're trying to determine if there are witnesses other than the video cameras that they would have as to what took place here this morning in that mall.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you make, that they also have to kind of interview these people along the way. You've got fitting rooms that people may have been in, hiding, and what have you. Ted, real quickly, you heard Greg talking about this. We've had this happen outside the country and in our own nation, these mall shootings. And you heard the police chief kind of allude to it. People are knowing what to do now to hide. As a former detective, what would you do? What do you tell your own daughters if you hear gunshots in a mall?
The first thing you do is to drop to the floor, to get to any walls or under any counters that you can. You remain there. If you've got a cell phone and you can text out, this is the one time you can legally text. You text out messages. You let people know where you are. You remain still. You wait until law enforcement give you the all clear.
Ted Williams, pertinent information on this Saturday. Tragedy has unfolded in his area there on the East Coast. Thank you for joining us.